Let's dive right into this explainer. We all know the buzzword Agile, right? It's everywhere. But today, we're going to actually break down how its mechanics magically transform software development from a super stressful, linear path into a flexible, highly collaborative journey.
We've got a really great roadmap for this explainer today. First, we'll cover the Agile mindset. Then, sprints and iteration. Third, the shift-left approach. Next up, Scrum versus Kanban. And finally, the collaborative journey. Okay, Section 1. The Agile mindset, moving beyond rigid rules.
To really grasp the mechanics here, we first have to recognize that Agile, well, it's fundamentally a mindset. It's a set of core values. It is definitely not just some rigid rulebook or a magic piece of software you can buy off a shelf. This whole approach is rooted in what's known as the Agile Manifesto, and this brilliant document illustrates how prioritizing real human interaction, functional software, and pure adaptability creates a much smoother development process than stubbornly sticking to a strict, predetermined plan. It's all about being responsive, not just reactive.
Now, notice the stark contrast here between the past and the present. On one side, you have the traditional waterfall method, which was quite frankly headache-inducing. It was entirely linear, it relied on these incredibly strict predetermined plans, and it meant teams spent months, sometimes literally years, building massive products in total isolation. And if you got to the very end of that process and the market had changed, yeah, you were in huge trouble. But on the flip side, the Agile mindset is iterative, it's incremental, and above all, it's wildly flexible. This approach delivers actual value to the customers so much faster and with far fewer headaches along the way.
Moving right along to Section 2. Sprints and iteration, the engine of Agile.
So, how do we actually put this Agile mindset into daily action? The absolute secret lies in the minimum viable product, or MVP. Instead of hiding away in a basement for months on end typing away at code without ever talking to a single user, Agile teams focus entirely on this MVP. It's basically the most foundational, stripped-down version of a product that actually still works. And why do we do this? Because it lets you get the product out into the real world to gather constant, immediate feedback. You're ensuring that you're building exactly what the customer needs as you go, not just guessing.
And the time frame for getting this done? It's incredibly tight and focused. These MVPs and all the little refinements that follow are developed in small, highly manageable cycles called sprints. And a typical sprint lasts just 1 to 4 weeks. I mean, think about that for a second. Every few weeks, you have a functional, tested piece of software ready to show. That is pretty amazing. A sprint essentially breaks down into 4 clear, repeatable steps. Step 1, you plan the MVP. Step 2, you build and actually test that functional software. Step 3, you put it right in front of the customer to gather constant feedback. And Step 4, you pivot and refine in the very next sprint. By chunking the work into these distinct little steps, the team stays incredibly adaptable. If a client's needs completely change mid-project, which, let's be honest, happens all the time, it's not a disaster. You just adjust your plan and pivot in the very next sprint without having to scrap months and months of hard work.
All right, Section 3, the shift-left approach. Communication is the engine.
This brings us to what the tech industry calls the shift-left approach. If you imagine a typical project timeline moving from left to right, well, traditionally, testing and quality control happened on the far right, at the absolute end of the line. Agile literally shifts that entire timeline to the left. It forces developers, testers, and product owners to collaborate from day one. And they do this through daily stand-up meetings to check progress, dedicated sprint planning sessions, and retrospectives to really dig into what worked and what didn't. This constant daily communication means obstacles are identified and cleared immediately. They aren't just discovered weeks later when it's way too late to fix easily.
And this early collaboration, it is exactly why anyone whose job it is to protect the integrity of a product, like a software guardian, absolutely loves Agile. Because testing and communication happen right from day one, quality control isn't this final, massive, stressful bottleneck just before launch. Instead, quality is seamlessly baked right into the software from the very beginning. Kind of like sugar in a cake. You don't sprinkle it on at the end, it's baked right in. It is never an afterthought. Let's look at Section 4, Scrum versus Kanban, flavors of the Agile umbrella. Now, when we compare the specific frameworks that live under the Agile umbrella, we see some pretty distinct differences. On the one hand, you have Scrum, which is highly structured. It features clearly defined roles like the Scrum Master, who guides the process, and the product owner, who represents the client.
Scrum uses those fixed-length sprints we talked about and very specific ceremonies, or meetings. Now, on the other hand, Kanban is much more fluid. There are no fixed sprints here. Instead, it focuses on a continuous, smooth delivery of work. The key mechanic for Kanban is putting strict limits on work in progress, or WIP, to make absolutely sure the team never takes on more than they can handle. This completely stops bottlenecks before they even start.
But here is the absolutely crucial point to take away from this. Regardless of which specific framework a team chooses, whether they love the rigid structure of Scrum or the smooth fluidity of Kanban, the ultimate goal is exactly the same. Both are designed to drastically increase transparency across the team and to foster an unrelenting culture of continuous improvement. The team is just constantly always looking for ways to work more effectively together.
And finally, Section 5, the collaborative journey, delivering high-quality software. When you finally pull all these pieces together, the flexible mindset, the short sprints, the shift-left communication, the structured frameworks, the real-world impact is just massive. Because the customer is intimately involved at every single stage of those short sprints, the risk of building the wrong thing essentially plummets to zero. By the time that final product is actually delivered, it hasn't just been guessed at. No, it has been tested, reviewed, and refined multiple times in the real world. This results in incredibly robust software, super happy clients, and honestly fantastic team morale, because everyone feels their work actually matters and is hitting the mark.
There is a quote from our source material that perfectly summarizes the human element behind all of these mechanics. It notes that Agile turns the development process into a collaborative journey rather than a stressful race toward an uncertain finish line. Man, that is such a powerful paradigm shift for any professional out there.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. Even if you don't write a single line of code, how can you apply this Agile mindset to your own life? How can you take these concepts of chunking your work into short sprints and shifting left to collaborate earlier to finally eliminate those stressful races in your own daily workflows? Just think about that as you tackle your next big project. Thank you so much for joining me to demystify Agile today. Keep learning, keep iterating, and I'll see you on the next explainer.